Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Cheryl Durst, the CEO of IIDA, and I'm so glad that you're joining us this afternoon for this really important conversation. I hope that all of you out there in Zoom land, all of you listening, are staying healthy, safe, and well. Welcome to episode 7 in our ongoing series of collective design webinars. This series is very generously supported and sponsored by Interface. And today, we welcome representatives from 4 stellar manufacturers who will share with us insight on how they're adapting design, sourcing, and production methodologies to build resiliency and to help frame the what's next for all of us and for the built environment. These manufacturers specifically, and all the others that we know, are so vital to the design community and to the shared future of the built environment. Before I introduce our moderator, let me first do just a little bit of housekeeping. Today's program is CEU accredited by IDSA for 1 CEU. To receive credit, you must attend the entire webinar. If you don't, we know who you are and how to find you. Your credit will be reported within 7 business days if you registered with us with your IIDA member number. If you didn't register with IIDA and with a member number, please send an email to contactceu@iida.org with your IIDA or IDCEC member number. Now, please join me in welcoming our moderator for today, my friend Brian Graham. Brian is the founder and creative director of Graham Design in San Francisco. Brian is a designer, he's an advocate, he's an advisor. He offers strategic support and approach in the design, development, and marketing of workplace furniture. And I think it's really important to know that Brian describes himself as first an interior designer who evolved into a furniture designer, and it informs everything that he does. Out there in Zoom land, please join me in welcoming Brian Graham. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Cheryl, and hello to everybody out there in all ships at sea. Excited to have you all on board here. I think we've got something really relevant to talk about today. I think we all know that the manufacturers that we all work with day to day are having to rethink much of what they do, both in terms of the products that they make and the way that they communicate and collaborate with the design community. So today we're going to explore with each of our panelists the effects that our current situation have on the typologies of products that they're making, the impact it's having on production methods, and the important role that they play in our design industry ecosystem. So first of all, hi everybody. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you guys being with us today. I'd like to first ask that each of you, as a way of introducing yourself to our audience, let us know who you are, what you're doing, but also from a personal and a professional perspective, how you guys are faring through all of this. And I'll start with Alexander.
Thanks, Brian. And thanks to Cheryl and IIDA and everyone tuning in today. I'm Alex Williams. I'm co-founder and director of growth for Rich Brilliant Willing. And for those wondering, Rich Brilliant Willing is a play on 3 last names: Richardson, Brill, and Williams. RBW designs and produces contemporary decorative lighting in Brooklyn, New York. We have a team of about 50 there. We believe in the power of light to create atmosphere. In terms of me personally and professionally, I think relatively speaking, pretty good, healthy, able to stay productive, and I think that's the best that I could ask for right now.
Awesome, Alex, that's great. Catherine.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone out in Zoom land. I'm Catherine Minervini here. I'm with Sunbrella Contract. And I'm based in New Jersey, and I cover the East Coast, supporting the design community and a lot of our brand partners. You know what? I've been working remotely for quite a long time, but I would say that this has a whole different meaning to it. So kind of finding a new groove and a new pace, and you know, staying busy, cooking a lot, trying to stay creative, and just working hard. So that's about it.
That's great, Catherine. Thanks. Lisa.
Hello, thank you, Brian. I'm Lisa King. I work in the area of insights and innovation for Interface. We're a global manufacturer of carpet tile, our Nora rubber brand, and we also provide luxury vinyl tile to our customers around the world. We're headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm actually in our base camp, our corporate headquarters today. How are we doing? Thankfully, my family is all safe and well. My husband, our son, our 2 dogs. We're kind of getting used to the patterns of the day with 2 work-at-home folks and a newly returned college student who's learning from home. He tells me it's not the freshman year he was planning, but we're doing fine. And our work team here, thankfully, is all safe and well also.
That's great to hear. And Ryan.
Hey everybody, Ryan Menke, Senior VP of Sales and Marketing for OFS. Personally and professionally, we're doing fine, doing well. Like everybody said, we're getting used to working from home. I've had the good fortune being in Indiana to be able to come into the office most days, but thank goodness, because I've got a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, 2 puppies, a cat, just got a kitten apparently named Charmin, which is appropriately named for, you know, these times in the toilet paper crisis. But no, we're doing well. We're starting to see, you know, some people come back to the office. It was today I had a couple new faces in the building. It was great to see some of the team. So we're doing well here in Indiana.
Great to hear. Great to hear. Great. Well, let's dive into this, shall we? As we talked about before, manufacturers, I imagine you guys face a unique set of challenges as a good portion of the teams that you work with are involved in the physical making of things. So with all of that, how are you innovating in those areas? Lisa, what does that look like for you guys?
Sure. We're a global manufacturer with manufacturing facilities around the world. I would say, as advice for others, make sure you've looked at your business continuity plans in great detail. Make sure that it's not just your own ability to manufacture products that's going to be key to success, but your ability to get those products delivered to customers who may be in various states of availability to accept products. You know, as I said, we're fortunate that we can serve our customer needs from multiple facilities, but of course, that's just part of it. So make sure beginning, middle, and end, you can make the product, you can get the product shipped. When you get the product shipped, there's someone there to receive it so the product's not showing up either too late or too early, which can also be a problem. We've had several, as you can imagine, healthcare opportunities where customers needed product really very quickly, and I'm so thankful to our manufacturing employees and proud of our ability to serve that product up super quickly.
Right. Interesting. Interesting. Ryan, you guys also have several different manufacturing facilities located around the country. So what special challenges are there region to region?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, so we've got facilities in Florida, California, North Carolina, Kentucky, Indiana, and then with our hospitality division, a huge sourcing base out of China. And what I will tell you as an ex-supply chain guy and a current sales guy is don't chase the trend or the fad. So many people got caught trying to outrun the virus. When in reality, China ended up being the best place to be, say, for hospitality. But stateside, it's definitely been difficult. I mean, supply chain is one of the hardest jobs out there right now. I mean, we'll get a text message from the supplier and they're closed tomorrow. So to manage all that, we've done really well. Thankfully, we've been building redundancy in. But to manage nuance state by state, since it's not been a federal mandate, it's been state by state managed. That's provided some unique challenges, but luckily we've been able to navigate those through all of it so far.
That's interesting. You bring up a really interesting point that I think sometimes is kind of hard to grasp, which is that while you guys make things, you're also reliant on supply chains and vendors in some respects, and maybe more than others, to help you guys pull things together and end up making products. Alex, have you guys seen some challenges with regard to your supply chain?
So definitely, for us, Made in Brooklyn went from being really cool to really tough pretty quickly, and we do rely on a I guess surprisingly complex supply chain for a company our size. But we've been able to adapt pretty quickly and work with some partners both regionally and internationally who have essential facilities that have stayed open. And actually we have some wonderful component vendors in China and Taiwan who've been open this whole time, and they've really stepped up and helped to support us, and even offered to provide PPE and other resources for us and for our community. So our supply chain has really become some of our best friends throughout all this.
Right. Because it's truly a partnership, right, between the two, or several of you, right?
Absolutely.
Catherine, I know that Sunbrella makes almost everything domestically. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Everything's made in Anderson, South Carolina. So we haven't had really hiccups in that area.
Interesting.
We spin all our yarn at the facility there and make all the fabrics. So it hasn't really interrupted any of that for Sunbrella particularly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's interesting. Has anybody felt like the vendors might be able to make things, but it's getting it to you has been more of a challenge?
I haven't seen that. Not domestically. I think there was some stuff internationally there for a while that when they cut back capacities, and then there was some air freight issues at times. But domestically, we haven't seen. There wasn't an embargo, right? So freight was still deemed necessary and was moving. So we hadn't seen any of that stateside.
Right. Lisa, how about you?
Yeah, I guess in our case, when we've had to move product that had been manufactured was easier for us to move. Where you might find some hiccups, I would say, is in very small samples or things that you would normally air freight over for review, because if you look at the reduction in commercial air travel right now, a lot of those samples, they don't come on a container ship the way your manufactured product does. They come in the cargo hold of a commercial aircraft. So you have to just kind of be mindful that you may have unexpected delays not really related to your essential supply chain.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. Shift gears here a little bit. Let's talk about your new product pipeline, right? Everybody's got a new product pipeline. So what is that new product pipeline looking like these days? Anybody want to take that on?
I can take it. So yeah, I mean, obviously our pipelines are usually a couple years deep. And so we certainly, going into it, you look to prioritize, and what was priority before the pandemic may not be after. So there's some near-term things like we developed bedside cabinets for a rapid response program, and we had to design them from scratch because we couldn't allow our production employees within 6 feet of one another. So we had to completely design a totally different cabinet so to keep them safe in the facility and yet take care of the needs of the healthcare workers in the field. So there's been things like that we've had to deal with, and which is totally new product that was never obviously on the radar before. And then obviously there ended up being a huge shortage of height adjustable bases for overbed tables. So we ended up having to design custom overbed table bases and have to and fabricate those here locally. And then for the mid and long term, we're also looking. So, we still hold a long-term view on everything, but there's, certain screening elements and space division elements that people are asking for right now that we want to make sure we bring forward in our portfolio. And then the other thing is as you manage to cash, you got to look at your pipeline and look at what's going to require, some tooling dollars or heavy inventory dollars. So you look at a lot of that as well. So it certainly takes a lot of understanding the context deeply as you're making those decisions.
Yeah, Catherine, are you guys, with your new product pipeline, are you guys right now still pretty much on track, or like Ryan, have you had to kind of come back and look at what do we really need to do right now, and maybe we need to hold off on some things?
We operate a little differently because we're actually making product we have an open line collection for Sunbrella contract, but we're also making product we work with about 27 different brands. Mm-hmm. So what a big focus of ours right now is really supporting those brand partners. So CF Stinson has a product coming out for virtual neocon with our new Assure technology. So we're really honing in on some of those technologies and helping to support them get those products out there for the designers. So that Assure is a new fluorine-free product. It's a finish on our product. So I think we're really tapping into each one of those partnerships to understand, when were they expecting to launch, especially with neocon. That's when a lot of our brand partners are featuring new products at neocon. So looking at that and trying to keep it on track. How can we help them? How can we help them get the product out there? What are some new platforms we can look at? Virtual neocon, how can we support that and get them? Because at the end of the day, designers want to see the new product. So we still are trying to keep that on track. And then for our own open line collection, our design team is still in place, trying to work on what might be needed down the pike as far as recycled content, technologies like Assure or Defiance, which is antibacterial. So a lot of those innovations are already in existence, and we're just trying to hone in on those a little bit more to see where they might be even more applicable, because we might be looking at using those technologies in different market segments, not just the healthcare. So originally they might have been thought for just the healthcare environment or for things like healthy hospital initiatives, but now we're really looking at how is that going to transcend across different market segments.
Right, that's interesting. So Lisa, for you guys, are you doing any adaptation or rethinking or reworking of any existing product designs given the new challenges that this situation poses?
Yeah, I think everybody's product innovation roadmap is always a dynamic work in progress, right? Things are always rising up in the funnel or drifting back a little bit based on changing market needs. If you looked at Interface 10 years ago, you would have seen a carpet tile manufacturer, right? Since that time, we've entered the LVT category. We've acquired Nora, our rubber brand manufactured in Weinheim, Germany. So we have a whole new complement of resilient products to offer our customers, which are heightened in maybe interest in this, particular moment. I think Ryan said something really good earlier about not being too knee-jerk in your reactions to things. And innovation roadmap always has a short, medium, and long-term component to it. And I also want to highlight what Catherine was saying about segments. You want to look at it for market applicability, segment applicability, and also rounding out your portfolio. So I would say you're really going to see more of what we were already doing, not different things per se. And across all our products, we're focused on lowering the embodied carbon so that building specifiers and architects and designers can lower the carbon footprint of the built space, and that flows across all our product categories.
That's really interesting, because I think that the word that you used, I know is specific to the flooring, resilient, is a word I think we're all having to deal with these days, right? And if we can incorporate that into our products, so much the better. Not literally as resilient flooring, right? But adaptability seems like really important too. So in that instance, have you guys started to sense, you know, I need to reach out, or maybe you already are reaching out to other people, say an outside consultant or a partner, to innovate in ways to advise on your new product pipeline or in reworking some of your existing pipeline? Ryan?
Yeah, so, you know, for us, luckily being diversified across so many segments, you know, we're looking at our healthcare brand, Carolina, and trying to see if there's cross-pollination opportunities, both in technologies and products. We're kind of, you know, we're all furniture nerds, so we're always out there kind of researching and trying to look for the newest technologies and you know, or maybe old technologies become new again, right? So,
right.
You know, we've seen things that used to exist in the market now that are, you know, becoming prevalent. You know, the thing that, you know, we're always cautious of, though, is not reacting, but responding to the market. And, you know, the thing that always makes us really nervous, and we're seeing some of it, is if we throw up a bunch of temporary stuff, where is it going to go on day two? And so, you know, for me and for us, I'm terrified of where all these things could end up. Well, they end up in the landfill with a lot of the solutions, or quote unquote solutions, that we're kind of seeing out there. So we're worried about that. And so we're playing that out in our calls. We're trying to figure out what's a good day one solution, but what's day 2, 3, and 4, and 5 look like. And I think that's where you're talking about adaptability and iteration. And you know, we were already talking about that for agile work environments, but now more than ever, that the lack of certainty on what tomorrow looks like in the next day, because it may not be 6 feet in the next thing that pops up. It may need to be 7 feet. It may need to be 52 inches. Who knows? So, you know, you got to plan for adaptability and agility and iteration, I think, on whatever you're developing.
Ryan, I couldn't agree more with what Ryan's talking about. I mean, I think this is the time too, as you really look at where do you excel, where, you know, what are some of the successes, and what are you really good at, and how can you either exploit that some more, use those technologies that are in place. Like I was saying earlier, something like a Defiance or a Sure. I think somebody asked in the panel, in the chat here, will we be looking into antimicrobial finishes as a standard? I'm not sure we'll do that. We have a lot of, you know, we're bleach cleanable, and we have a lot of things that are already inherent in the product. But to look at these, where do they make sense? So we already have this technology, it works really well. Where does it make sense in other places? And I think that you can't really rush to those. You have to do your research, you have to do your homework, and you have to really understand what does it mean now and in the long term. So I think that is it's hard not to react in a time like this, but it's also very important to take a pause. And for all of us, no matter what task we're doing, whether it's in R&D and it's product development, or it's in sales, wherever you are, you really have to take a moment to kind of take that pause and figure out, be thoughtful about it. So.
Well said, well said. Alex, your products, I think, want to say mostly in the lighting realm. Have you found that you guys need to adapt any of what you're doing to a different purpose, or is that a thing?
So workplace and hospitality are the two biggest areas for our products. And so, of course, we're just trying to pay attention and listen and see how we can help support the changes in those types of environments that will inevitably come. The idea of more people working from home is pretty interesting to us, and how can we create this kind of ideal homework environment? The concept of creating atmosphere that allows for comfortable, productive work is pretty relevant there as well. There are some simple things we're looking at doing. Just adding a cord and a switch to a wall sconce, for example, makes it usable in a much wider range of spaces. Longer term, though, we were already looking at doing some some improvements, DFMA, which is designed for manufacturing assembly, just some overall efficiency improvements to the way our existing products are made, which will make them just better products in general moving forward, easier to produce, less waste, easier to source among multiple vendors easily and still have a high quality product. So all of that for us is even more relevant now.
Cool. You know, it brings up the central thing here, right, with our design ecosystem is that every one of us is reliant on designers and specifiers who obviously are dealing with a lot of changing needs in the workspace or in the hospitality space, in the healthcare space. Some are in different places than others, but that's really corresponding and communicating and collaborating with them is really essential, right? So is this situation offering a new opportunity for you guys to connect with that very important ecosystem of designers and specifiers in a unique or innovative way? Lisa, how about you?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think we're so inspired here by how quickly our employee base was able to kind of pivot and find these new ways to connect with customers. I mean, virtual CEUs, virtual lunch and learns, virtual mixology, virtual happy hours, virtual coffee breaks, and all of these were connection points because a lot of people have questions, a lot of people have the same questions. The opportunity to learn from each other is so important. Back to something Catherine said a few minutes ago, there are inherent benefits in our products that we can remind people of and highlight for them that can solve a need immediately. I mean, modular flooring is inherently well suited in the short, medium, and longer term to create this kind of effective wayfinding, to transit people through a space, to establish zones that, not only enable and promote social distancing, but also maintain the aesthetic of the workplace. And so the ability to have that kind of back and forth in a discussion has been super important for us, and I hope very valuable to our customers as well. But we've very quickly been able, as an entire company, to connect with our customers in the virtual space. I will highlight for other folks out there, there are some benefits to virtual connection in terms of the focus your customer is able to give you sometimes in the online environment can actually be, more single-minded and more focused on the dialogue than it would be in the workplace. And the other thing I would say is virtual doesn't have to mean impersonal. As we've all kind of gone through our individual learning journeys on the everything from a WebEx to a Zoom to a Teams meeting to a Skype to a you name it, I think as people become more comfortable in that dialogue, you're not losing the communication pathway, it's just changing.
Yes. And all of those things are really interesting, although I have to say, I miss the baked goods.
Brian, you know what? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lisa.
No, I was going to say we miss being together too, and our customers are, they miss being with us. They miss coming to base camp that we have set up almost like a virtual showroom that, not only displays so many of our products, but illustrates how you can do this zoning. And yes, we have cookies, but not too sugary. Healthy cookies.
Brian, I've been saying that I think the old school phone call is coming back. Everyone, a lot of times I don't feel like getting into a conversation. I'm just going to text them. I'll email them. You have a record of it. But I think personally and professionally, I've just been picking up the phone, calling people, and having some really meaningful conversations. I also think this time, even though it's virtual, I feel like we're all really being collaborative. And on the rep side or on the sales side, one of the issues that we're coming up against is, a lot of reps are saying, well, the designers don't have time for virtual meetings because they're on their own virtual meetings. So that presents a new challenge for us. So it's like, okay, where are they? Are they on Instagram? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on social? Can I just pick up the phone? Maybe at 5 o'clock is a good time for them to chat. They're getting kids set up at school for those that are you know, doubling up on being a school teacher and working. So there's so many different facets to this. And I think right now it's kind of like, we're all in this together. We've all been saying that. But how do you sift through that, and what works for this person or that firm that doesn't work for this person or that person? So it's shifting, it's figuring that out on the fly, sometimes doing some planning. This morning I did a CEU, this afternoon I'm doing this, but tomorrow could be, you know, 5 phone calls. And I think it's really forced a different level of collaboration, which is, I find to be really interesting and kind of inspiring right now.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I was gonna, if I could, you know, I agree with both Lisa and Catherine's points. Is that it seems like now there is the ability to connect at a more human level than before. It was, everybody was so rushed. It was about the, hey, give me the information, you know, here's the information I need. You know, it was more transactional. You know, we're finding now that people that we may not even been able to talk to in the past, now it's 45-minute conversation and we're just talking person to person. It's not even, there's no business even discussed. It's really more, you know, just kind of a check-in. How are you doing? How's life? How's your circle? Are you safe? Are you healthy? And I think that, you know, that's been very inspiring. I mean, obviously, you know, I'm a hugger, you know, so I don't like this two-dimensional expression of communicating. That, you know, I was reading an article on secondhand stress today, and now there's, you know, you can even smell stress, they're saying, in another person. So, you know, our experiences are, you know, 6 senses deep or more, and this doesn't give that to us. You know, we're not seeing that body language. So, you know, it's working. It's given us new opportunities. Yet, you know, I think I can't wait for it to get back to some level of normal where, you know, you don't get this weird juxtaposition with the person when you get at 7 feet. You're not quite to 6 feet, but you're at 7 feet, and all of a sudden you start seeing people's body language start to change. But
yeah,
I was just going to add that we actually do a kind of an interview series ongoing called Shop Talk with various partners that we work with. And we've actually adapted that more recently to kind of a work from home theme, just talking to some of our customers, interviewing them about their work habits and how really it's become this really interesting portrait of just work culture and how different companies of varying sizes have adapted. And we've actually learned a ton from that. And put certain things into practice for our own company, just to kind of maintain, you know, even in internal dialogue and remote culture that's healthy.
Yeah, I think this is all actually, well, first of all, right, I'll just say that, would you guys agree with me that design and making things is the ultimate act of optimism, right? That
Absolutely.
you have to think that you're going to do something that's going to make things better. And so no surprise that I think we're all sensing optimism and also taking away the positives from this and turning it into something that can be meaningful. I know we got some audience questions that we're going to get to, but one of them came in and I think is right on point, which is in connecting with your design community and with all of the networking and communication platforms that are out there. What have you guys found to be the most effective means to make those connections? You guys alluded to it a little bit before. Alex, you talked about a design talk, which is a really cool idea. Anybody else feels like, oh yeah, we've started this series, or we're doing this kind of outreach? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I can take that one. We, you know, we launched a podcast, and we had a library of recorded episodes that we were getting ready to launch, and then the pandemic hit, and we quickly pivoted to new content. And Doug Shapiro, a lot of you know Doug, who's been on the IIDA board for years, actually has a podcast with our Cheryl Durst here coming up soon. But it's been a really uplifting way of communicating and sharing and just talking from a very vulnerable perspective about how we're all getting through this. I mean, we've had Angie Lee on there. We had Carlos Baumgartner talking about being a positivist as a designer. We've had a friend of mine, Dr. Drew Ramsey, who will come up here soon, who's a pioneer in nutritional psychology. He's an interesting guy from Southern Indiana, but all his patients are in New York City. And so he's got this really weird juxtaposition, but he helped our teams internally. So we've done podcasts. The other thing that we stood up was a well-being page on LinkedIn, just a place to share kind of positive messages, a place to share, resources and tools for the broader community to take the good out of this, learn from it, and push through to the other side. So that's a couple of things that we've had success with through this.
Ryan, we approach it probably a little differently because we have a fairly small A&D team. We can't get to everyone on a pre-crisis, pre-COVID. So we really work, we're trying to find new ways to connect with our brand partners. So all of our textile brand partners that we're making product for is, what are they looking for? Can we do any virtual events together? Can we help do some training with their sales teams? What can we do there to really support them, as they have very direct connections with the design community? So that's a little bit of a different tack for us, and where we sit in the industry. And I think that's going to be really successful as we move through this. So it builds those stronger connections, but also, we for so long have been just known as an outdoor brand, an outdoor fabric. And so part of our job on the contract side is to help develop that, really challenge the design community to think of us on the inside, right? So that's why we work with ACT, and we're working on certifications to make sure we meet all those guidelines for the interior environment. So how could we really help our brand partners on parlaying all of that knowledge to the inside, and especially in all different market segments now? So that's kind of how we're looking to address some new ways to go to market. It's a little removed.
Yeah, a couple things I'll add, and I wish they were my ideas because they were super great, but they were our salespeople's ideas because they're in front of the customers all the time. One thing that I really thought was just so nice was an event focused on children who are at home with us while everyone is working at home. So our customers, just like us, are trying to balance. And that was really great, I thought. There was a guided talk about wellness. Ryan, you mentioned this earlier. There was a guided yoga class that we invited some people to come into. And you may say, well, gee, that's, is that really about the product and all of that? Well, it's about connecting. It's about connecting with our customers. And the other thing I'll say is, I wish there was that magic, push the button and it all happened. But actually, I really don't wish there was a magic push the button. You all know your customers better than anyone else, and they don't all want or need or respond to the same things. So just like before all of this, now is when the brands and the companies who get it really right do so, because we understand our customers and their needs on a very different level. So the two fun ideas: maybe think about an activity for other people in the household who are home. Maybe think about some exercise and yoga and something that's a little less formal even than what we're doing right now, but recognize it's going to be a whole variety of solutions because our customers are different.
I could see a really interesting result of all of that, and I love this idea of getting the kids involved. Imagine the mood boards that are going to be generated in the next couple of months. I think that could actually be kind of cool. Speaking of that, another cue that's coming in from out there, from some of our viewers, have you guys been leaning on any innovative technologies like AR or VR or virtual presentations, and have you found them to be effective?
I think that we haven't specifically on that. I think one of the big requests we've been hearing from some of the bigger firms is they're looking for content to place on their platforms internally so that designers can access that information when it works for them. So maybe it's early in the morning before they get their kids set up. Maybe it's late in the day when things are sort of video conferences are over and emails are getting kind of checked off. So when can they access information about new product, maybe white papers? To me, what I've been hearing is content, looking for content. So can we create content for social platforms that we can also use just as branded content to send to design firms, and they can upload onto their own internal platforms, so kind of like virtual libraries. I know something else that we've been looking at is how do we support our brand partners who are on Material Bank. That's another great place to drive some of that content. So I think from that perspective, our team is really looking at how do we build more content that's very relevant, not just the beautiful, fluffy stuff, but information that they need. And of course, getting samples and all that. But I think it's really important to create really relevant content. We always use that term, but I think it has a little bit of a different meaning now because we also want it to be beautiful and branded and all that. But I think driving information and knowledge to the design community is really important right now.
Yeah, I would agree so much, Catherine. I mean, we've developed video content. We redesigned our webpage. Our website's laid out differently than it was before. We reformatted our insights section of our website so that there's, information, different articles that are either written internally or sourced around different topics that you can search and filter if you're just, just around, if it's around wellness or diet or inspiration. But we also, at the same time, to Catherine's point, people are just working different schedules. You might work 6 to 9 and then take the middle of the day off and come back online at 5 p.m. and work to 8. So our team quickly pivoted and brought forward a project where we put an online configurator to where you can now specify your product in real time at your discretion whenever it works for you. And in fact, we had seen our web activity is highest on Sunday evenings now, which was never the case before. So just reacting to the time, responding to the times, and reprioritizing your content to be relevant to today, I think is extremely important. And AR, VR, I think digital disruption across the board is going to accelerate due to this pandemic. That if there's one thing I'm certain about, it's that. And I think you're going to see a lot more AR and VR resources from everybody in the industry as we go forward.
Right. Okay, this is very interesting because I want to pivot to a couple of questions that are coming in from the audience because they're very relevant. In fact, one, it's a bit of a curveball, guys. So a lot of design firms are now asking us reps, they say, to put a halt on virtual meetings. Now what?
The front door doesn't. I don't know. You got to meet your client where they want to be met, and we talk about that all. If they want to meet on Instagram or LinkedIn or on the phone or via text or via an email, you got to meet them where they want to be. I mean, that's, as consumers, that's how we want to be met in our in our daily lives. So I think you got to respect that person's wishes and how they want to interact with you, or maybe they just don't. That's okay too.
Right.
You got to meet them where they want to be met.
Listen, I mean, my view on it, and I'm an hour south of New York City, so that's my major market, and I'm right in between Philly and New York City. Listen, when the restrictions are lifted, it's not like we're all going to be running in with boxes of donuts and stuff. It's just not going to work that way. No. I think Angie Lee mentioned it on the panel last week, which really resonated to me. Is, you know, companies are going to be looking, firms are going to be looking at who feels safe to come back, who needs to take their time coming back. So when the restrictions are lifted, we're not all going to jump on the subway and trains and buses and everything, cars, and just go waltzing into offices. There's going to be all kinds of restrictions leading up to that, procedures leading up to that. But the number one thing is people have to feel safe. And Angie was saying that people have to feel safe. So to Ryan's point is, we're going to have to continue meeting people in different places, different spaces, and different venues for quite some time moving forward. And so it's, you know, we just have to, we have to get a little bit, you know, nimble with where we're at, whether it's like this, or it's writing, or it's visiting, social distancing, you know, all of it. So I think it's going to be a challenge for quite some time, and we're just going to have to get a little comfy in that.
Yeah, we've experienced maybe less sort of interest in sales presentations, but a pretty strong interest in any sort of educational content, which was mentioned earlier, that we can provide, especially with regard to lighting. And we had actually just gotten around to launching our first CEU and booking out lunch and learns when everything started to get canceled. So we were able to kind of pivot that to a virtual CEU. And of course, we had a pretty substantial catering budget set aside for these lunch and learns. So what we wound up doing was converting those into donations. So those who sign up for our virtual lunch and learns, we donate $10 per attendee to Feed America, and we've actually been hugely successful.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. In fact, I was going to ask you guys whether there was anything that you were doing from an outreach perspective, or from a standpoint of something like Alex and RBW has been doing in terms of giving back to the community during this unprecedented time.
Yeah, I mean, I could speak up. You know, you kind of asked, it goes back to that question about product development pipelines. Well, we pulled our design team off of the product development pipeline and moved them to mass production. So our head of design, John Phillips, his wife's a seamstress, so they're in the house. They just iterated with prototypes until they came up with a mask that fit better. And we found that, you know, one size doesn't fit all. So we ended up having a large, a medium, and a small for children. So we've sewn over 3,000 of those at this point and donated those. And we've been able to make about just short of 1,000 gallons of hand sanitizer with our chemistry lab, and donated that to the local first responders, you know, East Forest, the hospitals. And then also we've been able to source, just north, I think, of 120,000 civilian masks and donate those. So we're trying to do everything we can. It's never going to be enough, but you know, every little bit I think helps.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. It's wonderful, right? The sense of community that everybody is feeling, I think, in a very personal way, but also the professional ties that bind us together as that ecosystem is it's heartening. It's heartening. Got a couple of other questions. We're going to go kind of lightning round here. Lisa, any plans on rethinking carpet? Writes in one of our attendees. Any thoughts on that? I think related to viruses living longer on carpet yarn as we know it today. Any innovation or technology you guys are looking at for that?
Yeah, I mean, we've always had in certain markets the antimicrobial in the backing of our carpet. I think there's a lot of curiosity, concern, and urgency around what does clean mean these days, and viruses, and without going like uber nerd and getting over my skis here, there's a big difference between cleaning and sanitizing and sterilizing and disinfecting. And there's a big difference between material being detected on a surface and a material being detected at a level that's pathogenic on that surface, at a level that could, make somebody sick. So while all of that is shaking out in the marketplace, you know, we talk with our customers about how to properly clean, how to properly sanitize products. And then I do think you might see short to midterm shifts to a preference for less heavily tufted materials. You might see a shift toward a preference for more resilient surfaces than woven surfaces. I think that'll probably be pretty short term, but who knows, right? So definitely we look at all different levels of product construction and format to balance aesthetics, durability, sort of where the product is used. Is this for, you know, a really rich, deep pile and deep plush kind of product, or is it for something where maybe a tighter weave is required or a tighter weave is looked at? And we've got such a range of those products already that I do think we can hit on most customer needs and concerns.
Okay, good. Alex, lightning round, because I'm supposed to let you guys know that we're about 10 minutes from wrapping this puppy up. Has anyone asked you guys to review doing a UVC lighting fixtures for the workplace?
That's a great question. So we actually just got off an IES webinar on that topic right before this, and it's definitely an interesting direction. The experts speaking on that topic we're just talking about how there will be a strong need for some pretty heavy regulation of what that sort of industry will and those products will look like. But in terms of incorporating somebody else's UVC technology into some of our products, for sure, that's definitely something we'll be looking at.
Okay, cool. Question for Catherine. Do you think the cleaning and chemical industry will have more of an impact in the textile world, since cleaning and disinfecting are now part of the new norm that we understand with COVID-19?
I think that's something we're paying attention to, is what are these cleaning aggressive, we're going to be looking at aggressive cleaning plans, right? People are going to want to see people cleaning all the time. They're not going to be, I think this was said at one of the panels I've been joining or been listening in on a lot of these. They're not going to be just coming in the middle of the night when no one's there. People are going to want to see it happening often, and it's going to have to be visible. You know, we've always been bleach cleanable, both our awning and our upholstery, so that's not a problem. And the other thing we really look at is, you know, from what we understand is that the you know, especially COVID is staying on some of these harder surfaces longer. And so as people continue to wipe those down more often and spray, that's going to land on our upholstery, whether it's a conference room chair, a task chair, lounge furniture. So how does that affect our product? And what we see for all the testing we have done, it does not damage it. So, you know, we are paying attention to all of that. We're constantly looking, you know, like I said earlier, we have this task force that's working on some new, gathering all this cleaning and disinfecting and information. And one of the things we say, that this is not, we don't start this project and end this project. This is kind of an ongoing thing that we have to really be thoughtful about and mindful about. So, yeah, that's kind of, I think it's going to be a work in progress. But as far as we know, that the harsh cleaners that are out there now are not really affecting our product, if of course you follow our care instructions on cleaning them. Everything still needs to be wiped down in a rinse mode as well. So
something we're all learning about on a daily basis. Yes. Do I wipe that down? Do I not wipe that down?
Just wipe it down.
We're just wiping it down. And I don't know about you guys, but these are the cleanest they've ever been, right?
Pretty
We're
clean.
getting Olympic level with scrubbing. Ryan, question for you. And this is a big one, but I know you can handle it. Will you continue as a manufacturer to invest in the physical trade shows that really kind of make our industry special?
You would give me this one. Absolutely. I think they'll be different. I hope they're different, honestly. We will definitely, continue to participate in those. We were pushing hard before any of this happened to reimagine what our trade shows look like anyway. So, I was actually pretty anxious to see what, Confluence was going to do to NeoCon. I think we need a more holistic, experiential design show, not just a showroom visit type of event. So I think that I love them because it's great energy. You get to connect with people. You get to see people you don't get to see throughout the year, maybe otherwise. It gives you time to to get honest, real-time feedback on things. And so I hope we get back to where we're all together again in these events and things. And but I also hope they're different, and we learn, and we take these pauses and get better at our craft across the board, including events and trade shows.
Awesome. Lisa, how do you feel about that? Because I know that you're a major player at NeoCon and other big trade shows.
Yeah, I think the trade shows have been such an important moment in time to kind of highlight new innovations and get a lot of exposure for that from a lot of people. I agree with Ryan. The trade shows will probably continue to evolve over time, and we have seen this year, some postponements, some cancellations, some see you next year of the trade shows. I think that's going to give everybody a chance to think about what's the most meaningful kind of interaction we can have at this time.
I couldn't agree more with Lisa and Ryan. I think this is the time where you kind of take that pause and you go, all right, wait a minute, what was our goal? What are our goals for going to all of these events? And can we, do we shift some of those dollars to other places? Do we create different content? But I think it does give us the time right now to take the step back and really understand our purpose, what the goals are. And again, I couldn't stress more, like the words to me that have really been coming out are thoughtfulness and mindfulness, and what is the value that we bring? What is the value of a trade show? And really sort through some of that. So I think it's been good. In one sense, it's good to have that space to think about these things.
Right. Alex, I know that you aren't necessarily a major player at some trade shows, but you also do a lot of other different sort of reach outs and trade shows. So what's a trade show mean to you?
Sure. Yeah, we certainly did a lot of trade shows earlier on to help build brand awareness, and we kind of started moving away from them a few years ago. And one reason was to help to sort of reinvest some of those funds in our own permanent showroom, which is in Soho. And one thing, well, I'm actually interested in some viewer feedback or from some of the other panelists on what sort of what designers think or what their interests or how they'll want to interact in showrooms and kind of resource centers moving forward, and how those will change when things start to reopen. But the other change for us from trade shows was just to spend more time kind of visiting our customers where they are and having these kind of pop-up events, which have been a lot of fun. And obviously that format too will now change. And we are looking at VR tools and other ways to help continue to provide some of those experiences.
Cool.
I think all of us represent a product that is an experienced thing, though. VR is part of it, but all of us have a product that has a feel, whether that is a tactile feel or a feel in the ambiance. There is a definite sensorial experience and basis for evaluation for all these products that is best delivered with the real product. So I don't think that product interaction as a concept is going to go away because it's so important to the product experience that you're ultimately specifying.
Yeah, that's an important point, and it actually is a perfect transition as I try to segue into kind of summarizing and wrapping things up. So any sort of last thoughts here, Ryan, Alex, Catherine, Lisa, about what we've been talking about, or maybe just some way to sort of summarize your thinking here?
You know, I thought Catherine was really onto something poignant in just taking a pause and thinking about trade shows, but taking a pause. Who would have ever thought we'd be given the opportunity to do nothing compared to what we were doing before for 51 days, I think, in like 11 hours, Brian? I think you had it nailed down to the hours that you've been stuck there. But, you know, to take a pause, to take a half a step back, and, you know, really think deeply about what are we trying to do, where are we going, what's our purpose, seeing that the earth is no longer vibrating because we're not driving as much, we're not flying as much. You know, what are the things that we can do to learn from this and actually make a difference on the other side? You know, not just go back and fall into the same patterns that we've done and repeated over, you know, millennia. Every time there's a crisis, we tend to go into this engineer and answer mode, as opposed to taking a step back and just breathe a little bit, soak it all in, focus on your purpose, and then and use it as an opportunity to learn from and make change.
I'm going to, unfortunately, I've been told that is going to have to end up being the last word.
Great way to end, Ryan.
They put a severe time frame on me here, and I'm getting messages. So thanks so much, everybody. I want to thank everybody from the panelists to the IIDA, and obviously our sponsor, Lisa King, with Interface. That was really terrific. Thanks, everybody. Really.
Thanks, IIDA. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys. Be safe.
Bye.